D-Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Willie Donick out today. We just had to break the unfortunate news to Chase McCabe that Vince Gill and Amy Grant have split up.
Yes.
Not literally, of course, but the Predators bobblehead. If you missed it the other day, Derek broke it.
Now they lay upon the desk, side by side, but apart.
They're not dead.
No, they're not dead, but I'm saying they're side by side, but not apart, not together.
But Derek Mason is indeed a home wrecker, if that's what you're wondering.
Yeah. I broke up Vince Gill and Amy Grant. I am sorry to all the fans.
The power couple of country music
is no longer
broken up by Derek Mason.
Exactly.
So your headline out of this aggregators is that Derek Mason, home wrecker. That's what's absolutely going on.
And then it could be underlined. He pulled the cord on their base.
He pulled the plug. He pulled the plug on their relationship.
Yeah, I literally did.
He sure did. What else is going on today? The Titans are on the field for practice. We will bring you any and all updates that we find interesting. Brian Callahan has already spoken today. Some players are going to talk after practice. I think they're going to talk as they make their way off the field. I'm not sure any players are going to be addressing reporters in a formal setting. But if we hear anything or see anything, we will bring it to you. But if you're looking for your jersey numbers, because that's an important thing, Teron Davenport, our friend Teron Davenport, has tweeted out some of the roster. So for those of you looking to get your Johnny Hecker jersey, the punter is going to be wearing number 3. Tyler Lockett, number 4. Of course, Cam Ward wearing number 1. For those of you dying for a Tim Boyle jersey, he'll be wearing number 15 for your Tennessee Titans.
I don't know how I feel about this whole single digit thing. A wide receiver is not supposed to have number 4.
Here are the single digits for the Titans. Calvin Ridley at 0, Cam Ward at 1, Tajay Spears at 2, Johnny Hecker at 3, Tyler Lockett at 4, Alec Manor at 5, Joey Sly at 6, Femi Oladejo at 7, Will Levis at 8, and Brandon Allen at 10.
I'm not
so I guess
sure.
not
Outside like the quarterback,
single digits.
I don't know how. Calvin Ridley, the number 0, that sort of that fits him in a sense. I forgot what number he was in Atlanta. I think it was number not 11, but 13 somewhere around. He was in the teens, I believe. And then what did he wear in Jacksonville? Did he wear number 0 in Jacksonville?
He wore 0 in Jacksonville. He wore 18 in Atlanta.
18 in Atlanta. So you go from 18 to 0. That sort of it fits him. I don't know if the number 4 fits Tyler. Did he wear number 4? He didn't wear number 4 with the Seattle. With
16.
Seattle. Yeah, I just don't. Number 4. There's been some heck of a number 4s. Was Peter Warrick number 4 or was Peter Warrick number 1? That was in college.
I don't want to crack open the door for you and jersey numbers because we saw what happened the last time we talked about
Yeah,
this.
you're right. But no, I'm just saying like the number 4 jersey. I'm trying to think of like a recognizable, a dominant number 4, whether it be in college or in the pros. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Peter Warrick was 4.
But you are a number purist. So I imagine that you think that all receivers should wear numbers in the 80s.
Yeah, that's just me. I'm old school, man. But I get, like 1 wearing 1, wearing number 11. I can see that. I wore number 13 going into college. So I'm kind of partial to that in a sense. But anything beyond that, just stay in the 8, like receivers 80s. Like when you think of number 80, you think of Jerry Rice. Like number 81, Tim Brown. And I know there are other great receivers. 83, Andre Reed. I mean, I can go down the line of 84, Sterling Sharp. I mean, it's just like 85, myself, Chad Johnson, whoever else. I can go down the line of great number 80s. they're making a name for themselves. I get it.
Look, it's
So with the single
the
digits
cool
in the
thing to
NFL,
do.
yeah, I get it.
Remember when Allen Iverson started wearing a shooting sleeve, and then
Yeah,
everybody started
wore
wearing a shooting sleeve?
Jordan started wearing a calf sleeve. Everybody wanted to wear a calf sleeve.
Right. So now all the cool receivers want to wear single digits.
Yeah. And listen, I am not being the get off my lawn guy. I'm not being that guy. I'm just saying I like the number 80s because as you've seen, I've rattled off like basically all the 80s, great numbers that at least I believe that are great numbers of guys that have played well. And then you look at the single digits, and I know there's no precedent for it. Like there's nothing before this, so I got to get used to it. But 1, yes. 8, yes. 11, yes. But anything, I was like, I don't know, man.
One texter says, Ricky says, Oladejo switched his number to 7. Yes, Ricky. Oladejo switched his number to 7. So if you're interested in the numbers of the rookies, Iamander is wearing 5. Oladejo is wearing 7. These are the ones that I can see on the tweet from Teron Davenport. DK is wearing 17. Winston Jr. is wearing 23.
Okay.
But again, for those of you thirsting for a Tim Boyle jersey, he's wearing number 15. I'm not sure even his wife, and I assume he has children, want to wear a number 15 jersey. Who knows? But if you're yearning for a Tim Boyle jersey, he'll wear number 15. But today, the Titans are on the field for the next phase of off-season workouts, and they're looking for that big goal. They want to turn their season around. They want to be a playoff team. And a lot of Titans fans, we hear you. The national media, they don't talk about your favorite team very much. We saw it with Cam Ward, right? Mm-hmm. Cam Ward gets selected number 1 overall by the Tennessee Titans in the NFL draft. ESPN goes, that's cool. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders for 15 more minutes. But Colin Cowherd on his show the other day was talking about people in the game who he thinks can be difference makers, one of whom is Cam Ward. And listen to what Colin Cowherd has to say about the impact that he thinks Cam Ward can have on the Tennessee Titans.
To me, it's all about changing outcomes. You can say, oh, this guy will be, you don't know. There's 4 people. This is a head coach quarterback league. There's 4 people, and only 4, in my opinion, that will change outcomes. Number 1 is Cam Ward, Tennessee. They led the NFL last year in turnovers. They were so hard to watch offensively, where even games they outplayed teams. Tennessee was so bad at quarterback with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph that they lost games where they out-physicaled, out-schemed, and outplayed teams. That's why Brian Callahan was often so frustrated with Will Levis. He knew he out-schemed and they out-toughed and out-physicaled and outplayed and out-called teams and lost. Cam Ward is accurate, moves, coachable. I mean, Miami's had some good quarterbacks. He broke all the Miami records. He's a 67% completion percentage guy. I think he's a really special player. I thought he was easily the best quarterback in this class. And again, he's humble. He was a 0-star recruit. There's a history of this league when guys come in without a lot of stars and without a lot of pats on the back. Nobody's pandering to them. That's jet fuel. So I think Cam Ward changes outcomes. I think Tennessee is going to be a playoff team.
So that was Colin Cowherd on his program. By the way, the other 3 people, because he mentioned 4 people, the other 3 people, he mentioned Geno Smith with the Raiders. He mentioned Ben Johnson coaching the Bears. And of course, Mike Vrabel coaching the Patriots. So along with Cam Ward, those were the 4 people who Colin Cowherd thinks can be franchise changers this coming season. And I don't think anybody around here truly believes that the Tennessee Titans are going to be a playoff team. It sounds nice, but I don't think it's possible. ESPN put out their football power index today. It's their analytics model, and I love this stuff, but I'm not going to pretend to understand all of it. And even if I did, I'm not going to bore you with the minutia. But their data suggests that the Titans start the season as the 2nd worst team in the NFL, only ahead of the New Orleans Saints. So more than likely the Titans are probably going to be in a position to draft at the top of the draft, more so than making the playoffs. But the question I have for you, Derek Mason, to start this conversation is, how does that happen? How do the Tennessee Titans somehow make the playoffs? Because I don't think it happened this past season, but it seemingly happens every season that a team that finishes last in its division finishes first the following season. We saw it with the Houston Texans a couple of years ago. I do not believe it happened this past season, but it seemingly happened every season where a team that was the worst in its division wins its division, which means making the playoffs.
Well,
so it does happen.
Look at the Commanders. They were a bad team, and they ended up, I think, second behind Philadelphia in their division, end up going to the NFC championship game. So, you see teams in this league, if they do it, if they hit on one guy in the draft and possibly one guy in free agency, if it hits right, then more than likely you're going to have a better season you did the previous season. And if it hits with the quarterback, you can sometimes double that, in regards to your record the next following season. Listen, when you look at the Titans, and listen, they were a bad team last season. This team had no depth. They haven't been able to truly develop anyone behind the starters. And you look at the starters last year, and a bulk of those guys were free agent guys that they brought in. So you can't say that they developed those guys. But when you're talking about homegrown guys that they've drafted, they haven't had a good track record lately in regards to those guys developing. Or developing to a point where they are, consistently, producing for this team. Because you look at Chikakonko, and he's developed, but not to a point where we can count on him consistently every week. So he has to up his game this upcoming season. But if you look, I'm just looking at this objectively, and people may think I'm crazy, but I like to look at it from both sides of the coin. If you look at the score, just look at the score of the Titans games, with the exception of the Lions game. And that game, I mean, the offense was truly the reason why they lost that game. Outside of Buffalo, Detroit, which are two of the top teams in the National Football League, and Washington, the Commanders, who were another top team in last year's NFL season. All those other games were within striking distance, were winnable games. But they couldn't win. Why? Because the quarterback, the ineptness of the quarterback and the offensive line.
I remember tracking this near the beginning of the season. And once the season went down the toilet, I stopped caring about it as much. But early in the season, they were up at halftime quite a bit.
Yes.
If the Titans played two quarters instead of 4, they'd be a 500 team. It felt like at one point early in the season. By the way, to answer my own question, since the league's realignment in 2002, there have been 4 seasons that did not feature a worst to first story. 2002, 2014, 2019, and 2024. So it did not happen last season, but it's rare that it doesn't happen.
Exactly. So the Titans can perceivably be one of those teams. And I just want people to sort of, because listen, I have been on this team, but I've tried to be fair with this team as well. I'm not going, too far left. I just tried to be fair with this team, knowing where they are at, taking all of that into account. Who put them there, who helped them, all of that, and the guys even now. So I try to be objective when I'm talking about the Titans. But again, if you just look at the games, the theme was always, if the quarterback just don't mess it up, we'll be okay. And then it was, okay, the offensive line. But the offensive line, it was just so much shuffling going on. And then when Cushenberry went down, it was just a disaster. It was pretty much a disaster after that. But if you look at just the team and the score, each one of these games that they participated in, they were within striking difference, all but like 3 of them. And they were against the top 3 teams in the NFL. Washington, Buffalo, and Detroit. They got blown out those games. But if you look at the other games, if they get good quarterback play, a quarterback that can push the ball down the field, a quarterback that won't make the mistake, then this would have been a much better team. I'm not saying they would have went to the playoffs. I'm not going that far. But this shouldn't have been a 2-win team, regardless of the depth they don't have. Why? Because in each and every game outside of those 3 games, they had an opportunity. And every time we would say the quarterback did something to mess it up. Now, again, the defense has to, because they scored 30-something points and they gave up 38 points against Cincinnati. I think they scored like 31 or 30. They gave up 38. So the defense got to do their part at times. But you're talking about the one of the highest scoring offenses last year in the NFL. And you're asking them to try to stop them when the offense is really not giving you nothing. But the offense gave you something. Why? Because Cincinnati was just as bad on defense as you were on offense. So it sort of balanced itself out, 30-38. But as I start to look at this a little bit more as we head into into camps, I don't think they're far away from being a winning team. Now, they can't have no setbacks because a lot of this hinges on Cam Ward, but I think they are closer to being a winning team. And believe me, winning doesn't equate to making it to the playoffs each year or getting into the Super Bowl, winning playoff games. I think they will be able to play winning football and win more games than they won in last year and even, the season before that. I think this is going to be a good team, but everything hinges on the development of the quarterback and how they sort of, figure this thing out, the offensive line, quarterback, and then the receivers. But as I start to look at it more and more, it's like, man, this team they are a bad team, but I think sometimes because we see it every day, they're not as bad as what I have perceived them to be.
Quickly, I just did the math. In their first 5 games of last season, they led at halftime 3 times, trailed once, and were tied once. They led the Bears and the Jets at halftime and lost those games. They were down 20-7 to Green Bay at halftime and lost that game. They were up 9-3 on Miami, won that game, and they were tied at 10 with Indianapolis and lost that game. So that would be 2-1 if games ended at halftime in the first 5 games of last season.
So this team, listen, they were not, I'm not saying that the Titans would have made it to the playoffs last year. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is this. If they can fix, and it's a big if they can fix the problem that ailed them every game last season, every game, even when they won those 2, if they can figure out the quarterback position, I think they're going to be closer to being a winning team than not.
615-737-1025. Colin Cowherd says that he thinks that Cam Ward is going to make the Titans a playoff team. I want that to be emphasized so that people don't say, can you believe that Adam Ving and Derek Mason said the Titans are going to make the playoffs? We're not saying that.
No.
Colin Cowherd said that. I want to hear how you think that happens. What has to happen for the Titans to make Colin Cowherd look like an incredible genius? 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tune into 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on Indianapolis. Pregame begins at 5:20 and first pitch is at 5:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure.
What's the energy been like with Cam Ward getting in the building?
Yeah, it's been great. Great kid, humble kid, outgoing. He's only been here because they started their rookie minicamp last Thursday. So he's only been there a couple of days. Tomorrow mark a week. So he's real quiet, but definitely pushing himself to learn the system. He's a leader, takes accountability for, himself. And whenever he, makes a mistake before, anybody can ever say anything about it. So I'm really excited for him. I think he has an amazing future ahead of him. So I'm super ecstatic for that.
Yeah.
So,
What should the expectation be for Titans fans that are watching this right now, fired up?
Yeah.
About the season.
Everything that we are doing right now is pushed to be the best. Like it's not we want to win a couple more games it's none of that. Like, I talk to my people like about the areas that I needed to fix and the areas that as a team we needed to fix. And, I've addressed my areas and the team addressed our team areas. And it's like, we're trying to establish our culture here and our identity and who we are as a team. So, getting Cam Ward and getting the other guys as well, it's like we're establishing that. Like that is what it is. Like this is our culture, and we sat down and went through everything as far as, what it means to be a Tennessee Titan, what it means to be here, what it means to the fans, what it means to everybody, So it wasn't just like a on the field thing. It was like everybody being connected with the community and everybody. So, pushing ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves and be excellent is exactly what we're striving to be.
That was JC Latham on Bussin' with the Boys. One texter just said, how many times did JC say in this interview? I did not count. By the way, one texter earlier said, whose number, Mike from Shelbyville said, whose number did we unretire for Tim Boyle wearing number 15? It wasn't retired. It was retired, however, in our hearts.
Yes.
For Nick Westbrook-Akine, who
Absolutely.
wore number 15. So do you have a problem with that, Derek? Do you have a problem with Tim Boyle wearing Akine's number?
He better, if he ever get a chance, he better step up because that's what Nick Westbrook-Akine did.
So Colin Cowherd on his program put it out there. He thinks that Cam Ward is such a difference maker that he is going to help lead the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs. Again, wishful thinking, I think. But Colin Cowherd said it, so we're discussing it. 615-737-1025. And there were a couple of texts to this effect. Taylor on our text line said, CJ Stroud has to get hurt. Trevor Lawrence has to remain a bust. Colts have to be the Colts, and 8 wins has to win the division. Mike in Lebanon said the Titans will make the playoffs if other teams have significant injuries. And that is one thing that does work in the Titans' favor, is that they play in the AFC South. We were talking about teams that go worst to first. Mm-hmm. The last 2 teams to do that were in the AFC South. The Houston Texans went from 3-13-1 to 10-7. The Jacksonville Jaguars went from 3-14 to 9-8 in 2022. So it's happened in the AFC South the past 2 times it's happened. So we don't know what Jacksonville is going to look like this season. New coach, Travis Hunter's there, Brian Thomas is there. We'll see what happens with Trevor Lawrence and whether Liam Cohen can get the most out of Trevor Lawrence. Indianapolis, unfortunately, the owner just died. They're working through all of that. On the field, it's about Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. Who's going to play quarterback? Who the heck knows? And the Houston Texans are the best team in the division. However, they did take a step back last season. So perhaps they weren't as ready for prime time as we thought when CJ Stroud took us all by storm in his rookie season. So one thing that is working in the Titans' favor in this situation, Derek, is that there is no big bad. There is no final boss in the AFC South. There's no Buffalo. There's no Baltimore. There's no Kansas City in this division. So that works in the Titans' favor when talking about how it could possibly be that they make the playoffs.
Yeah, the last 3 seasons, the AFC South has been won with a record of basically 9.5 wins. That's what it's been over the last 3 seasons. Whoever's won the AFC South has had an average of 9.5 wins. And 2 of the seasons was Houston, and then before that, it was Indianapolis. I think. Yeah, you said Indianapolis.
In the past 3 seasons, it has taken No more than 10 wins
Mhm.
to win the AFC South. The Texans won it at 10-7. Each of the past 2 years, the Jags, of course, taking advantage of the Titans' misery at the end of that season, won it at 9-8. So it has taken no more than 10 wins. And I'd be curious where that matches up against other divisions, but it has required no more than 10 wins over the past 3 seasons to win the AFC South.
No, it hasn't. And if you just look at it since 2019, outside of the Titans going 11-5, 2 seasons in a row, I believe, and Indianapolis was 11-5, one of those seasons as well. It's been 10 wins that win the division. So that tells me that this division hasn't gotten significantly better in those 5 from 2019 to now. This division hasn't gotten significantly better. So that will continue to leave an avenue open for the Tennessee Titans. Also, the good part is that the 3 teams ahead of them are all but Jacksonville are dealing with quarterbacks still under their first contract. So they're still developing, they're still learning, they're still trying to put teams, put players around those guys. Now, Houston has been able to sustain it over the last 2 years, but they didn't look like the team they did. Last year's team didn't look like the year prior to that. They just looked totally different. Now, you could say it was injuries, but, a lot of that, yes. But the Titans still are in play, and a lot of it hinges on the quarterback play. Just like with Houston, a lot of it hinged on C.J. Stroud. Indianapolis, a lot of it hinged on Richardson, and they botched that whole thing. And look at how they ended up. Jacksonville, a lot of it hinges on Trevor Lawrence. And what has Trevor Lawrence been? Inconsistent. And he's been hurt. So that's why Jacksonville are where they are. And now here comes the Titans with their new quarterback. So the Titans, again, I don't think the Titans are I think the situation they're in is not as bad as what people perceived it to be. Because if you're looking at the other teams in this division, there's no clear-cut runaway team in this division. I understand that Houston has the upper hand right now, but Houston didn't look like the team they were 2 years ago. Last year, they struggled the whole season, it seemed like.
I imagine that the Texans will be the heavy favorite among observers to win the AFC South. I am also waiting.
You think they're going to be heavy now that with Liam Cohen in Jacksonville? People may buy into the Liam Cohen, success that he had.
Not if they hear him say
Tampa.
Duval.
Yeah, you're right about that.
So the way I see it too is, and there's also the inevitable, thinking about the best way to say this, the inevitable annual slobbering all over the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah,
that tends to happen every single summer. Watch out for the Colts. Have you seen the Colts? You better watch out for the Colts. By the way, in the FPI rankings, which I referenced earlier from ESPN, their analytics model, they have the Texans as the 13th best team in the NFL. They have the Jags at 22, the Colts at 23, and the Titans at 31. So if you're going by that model, the Texans are heavy favorites.
Yeah, and it is expected at this point. Now, as we start getting into camp and everything else, then the odds may change a little bit. But again, I do believe that there's an avenue in the AFC South. To my, in my opinion, will only get one team out of their division. Into the playoffs, and it's going to be whoever wins the division, obviously. So this continues to leave an opening for the Titans. Now, if you look down the list of the teams, and I think we will discuss this a little bit later as far as the teams within the conference, their pros and cons. But just analyze every team in the conference. And when you sit down and you look at it like objectively, you see the Titans do have an opportunity to position themselves for a late push in the season.
A lot of home games at the end of the season.
So it may, if they can win those some of those 50-50 games like they had last year, if they can win 2 of those, 3 of those, then as the second half of the season starts to approach, I think they have more of an avenue to sort of, slide in there and again, be a winning team.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on Colin Cowherd's thoughts that Cam Ward is enough to push the Titans to the playoffs. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, I was doing some research on this topic, and what I found was I feel like I should have known this, but when I wrote it down, I was surprised by it. And it does have to do with Cam Ward and rookie quarterbacks. That's coming up next. 615-737-1025. Let me tell all of you that 1025 The Game is your racing station. Tune in this weekend for all of the NASCAR races, I should say, at the Nashville Super Speedway on The Game, presented by Green Trees. On Friday, there's the Rackley Roofing 200 at 7. There's the Tennessee Lottery 250 at 6:30 on Saturday, and the Cracker Barrel 400 at 6 on Sunday. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Green Trees Company is a family-owned cannabis company and dispensary located in Hendersonville, in a new location in West Nashville, and available online at GreenTreesCompany.com. This week's Nashville's best deal of the week is 312 Pizza and Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you. Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us to start the noon hour. But Derek, I was doing some research after I heard that clip from Colin Cowherd on how he thinks the Titans can be a playoff team with Cam Ward under center. And I was surprised by this. And I don't know if I should have been surprised by this. But the number of rookie starting quarterbacks who have started playoff games over the past 2 decades. Now, I am only including rookie quarterbacks who were established starters for their team. So there are a few instances where a rookie quarterback had to come in because the starter was injured and they played in the playoffs. So I'm only talking about rookie quarterbacks who were the starter for their team, who started playoff games in their rookie season since 2004.
Okay.
Ben Roethlisberger in 2004 with Pittsburgh. Joe Flacco in 2008 with Baltimore, as Derek knows all too well. Matt Ryan in 2008 with Atlanta. Mark Sanchez in 2009 with the Jets. Andy Dalton in 2011 with Cincinnati. Andrew Luck in 2012 with Indianapolis. Robert Griffin in 2012 with Washington. Russell Wilson in 2012 with Seattle. So 3 rookie starting quarterbacks in 2012. Dak Prescott 2016 with Dallas. Lamar Jackson 2018 with Baltimore. Mac Jones 2021 with New England. Brock Purdy 2022 with San Francisco. CJ Stroud 2023 with Houston. Jaden Daniels 2024 with Washington. Bo Nix 2024 with Denver. So I believe that is 15. I think that's my quick math. 15 rookie starting quarterbacks in playoff games since 2004. Are you doing your quick math too?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the so it was Russell, Dalton,
Roethlisberger, Flacco,
Yep,
Ryan, Sanchez, Dalton.
Yep.
That's 5.
okay.
Luck, Griffin, Wilson, Prescott, Jackson.
Okay,
That's
Prescott,
10.
Yep.
Jones,
Jackson.
Purdy, Stroud, Daniels, Nick. So that's 15.
Jones, Purdy, Stroud, Nix. Okay.
15 rookie
Got 'em.
starting
Boom.
quarterbacks in playoff games
Got
since
'em.
2004, excluding injury replacements.
Yes.
So I was surprised by that number. I felt like I should have known that,
Mhm.
but that's a lot.
Yeah, I think Lamar Jackson, he didn't start off as the starter. I don't believe. Did he?
Nope, he was not
yeah,
the starter.
Flacco was the starter.
I think he came in at week 8 or something around that time.
He came in later.
But in leading into the playoffs that year, he was the starter.
He was the starter headed
Yes.
to the playoffs. Listen,
Any common threads about those teams in particular that stand out to you?
I'm looking at all these teams, and whether it be Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, Sanchez. I think that third one was Ben Flacco, and who?
Ben Roethlisberger,
Yeah,
Joe Flacco, Matt Ryan.
I didn't.
Those were the first 3.
I couldn't read my own writing.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think those 3 guys came in with established coaches. Just those 3.
So you have Mike Tomlin.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh.
Harbaugh had been there. No, that was Harbaugh's second year. I think it was his second year or third year, one of the 2. And then Ryan, I don't know. I think their coach was there already prior to Matt Ryan getting there.
Mike Smith was their coach in
Yeah.
2008.
But if you start looking at these teams, each one of them, I think all of them, if you look at them, one, defense. You got to start with defense. If you look at all these teams, go down the list, they had a formidable defense. Maybe Matt Jones. Yeah, Jones did have a good defense that year. But if you look at all these teams from top to bottom, they all had a defense that could hold opponents, if they needed to, which meant they didn't have to score a bunch of points. If I'm not mistaken, now Atlanta, may not have been the case. But
you have firsthand experience with Joe Flacco
Exactly.
in 2008.
Yes. So
And the Steelers historically
have
always
defense.
had
exactly,
good
and they
defenses.
ran the football. So
Now, if I recall correctly, the Jets in 2009 with Sanchez,
yeah,
they
had a hell of a defense.
That would have been Rex Ryan, right?
Yeah, they had a hell of a defense.
Mhm.
So I think one of the common threads is for me, and that's why I talk about the Titans defense. That's why I asked TD, I think maybe a month ago, about how important will it be for Denard Wilson to make sure that defense is better than they were last year. Now, from a statistical standpoint, excuse me, they were a good team. They were ranked in the top 5. But if you start analyzing all of it, they gave up too many points. And now I'll tell you, some of that was on the offense, putting them in bad situations.
Gino on our text line says, every one of those teams had a really good running back and solid defense. Can you tell me the Titans have that? I don't have faith in that. It's not the same comparison right now with the Titans.
Listen, and he said exactly what I was leading to. Each one of these teams, they had I would assume they had a good defense. And like the texter said, they had a good run.
Well,
game.
speak to your personal experience
my
in
personal
2008.
experience is we had a good defense. We had a really good run game. And then we had sure-handed guys that can make plays when plays need to be made, whether it was Todd Heap or myself. So we had at least 2 of those guys in the passing game that can get the job done. And then you had guys in the backfield, Willis McGahee, Laurent McClain out of Alabama. He was converted fullback. He played running back for a bit for us in Baltimore. And then you draft Ray Rice as well. So you got a solid, a damn good run game, a good defense, and the quarterback just develop. You don't have to win games for us. And I'm pretty sure down the line, if you look at all these, look at Bo Nix. People think Bo Nix had this hell of a season last year. He really didn't. It was a good season, but their defense was really good. So he didn't have to outscore people each and every game, I don't believe. They had a hell of a defense. They had the defensive player of the year at defensive back. This defense was good. So when you start looking at these teams, you start to find common threads within all 12, 15 of these quarterbacks.
I'm just looking at 3 quickly because I don't have time to go through all of this. The 2004 Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger had the number 1 defense in terms of points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Your Ravens in 2008 were 3rd in points allowed per game. The 2009 Jets were 1st in points allowed per game.
And that's why, and this is why, like, people look at all that other stuff, which is, it has to work. I get it. The offensive line, they got to be in sync. I get all of that. I get all of that. But if you have a defense that can hold teams to less than 17 points a game, that's half the battle right there. Because now I don't have to score 21 points per game to win.
Shocker. Here's another one. In 2012, the Seahawks with Russell Wilson. Points against?
1.
1st.
Exactly. So you start looking at all these common things.
That would have been Legion of Boom,
I think
right?
so, yeah. Right? Yeah, because they wanted, it was the Legion of Boom. So when you start to look at it, it's just as important for the Titans to have a really good defense than it is for them to have a really good offense. That's why I say this team isn't too far off. Why? Because nobody within their division, maybe the Houston Texans, but the rest of the teams in their division, their defense are suspect.
I'm gonna do this. I think I should follow up on this tomorrow, looking at these rookie quarterbacks and defense. But here's another one: 2018 Baltimore Ravens, points against, 2nd.
So it's not people, and that's why I said that number, that points per game that the Titans had last year, it must come down. They must cut that in half.
Remember, they were 2nd in the NFL in yards allowed, but I believe it was 30th.
Yes,
and points against.
Given it.
And I don't know this to be true. I want to find a way that I can confirm it. I have to imagine that is the biggest gap between yards allowed and points allowed in NFL history. I have to imagine if it's not the biggest gap, it's one of the biggest gaps in NFL history.
It has to be. So when I look at the Titans, it's like if I'm analyzing all these other quarterbacks that have had success, rookie quarterbacks that have had success within the NFL, you start to find these common things, and then you look to your team and you say, do they have a good running game? Yeah, I think Pollard is a good bet. And I know why people sort of look at Pollard like, whatever. Because you've had Derrick Henry for 8 years.
And we're going to get to Tony
Well,
Pollard
I mean,
later in the program.
he wasn't Derrick Henry the first couple of years, and that wasn't, I don't believe it was his fault. I just believe, as I said back then, they just didn't use him correctly, because as he started to get more carries, as Coach Saban told you, he gets better, and you weren't giving him the carries. But you have had the luxury of having the greatest runner in the National Football League. So whoever comes after him is gonna be, but Pollard's been a good back. He's powerful. He can run inside the tackles, outside the tackles. He can catch the football. Don't underestimate and slight what Pollard does. We are doing that too many times because we just perceive the Titans as being a bad team. But don't slight guys like Calvin Ridley and Pollard, guys that are getting the job done, even though their team is bad. Pollard is a good back. So they got the running back situation. He's not Derrick Henry, I get it. But they got that part. They don't need to worry about that part, I don't think. So you can check that off the list. They need a defense. They need a defense, and they need another go-to guy. And obviously, the offensive line, I'm not worried about that, because I think they are going to be better. But again, because of the division that they're playing in, they're not too far off, people. Y'all act like this team is just, for the next 2 or 3 years, they're just going to be trash. I don't think that's the case. Why? Because I think they're going to get better. If you just look at it, I think they're going to get better. And then their division, that is the biggest reason why. It's their division. Their division is not like this, division where teams are winning 11, 12, 13 games a year. There's no dominant team within the AFC South. Not one.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on that. But coming up next, Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow will join us. We'll talk Titans, we'll talk college football playoff, and more with Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Coming up next, 615-737-1025. The PFL World Championship semifinals are Thursday, June 12th at Municipal Auditorium, and you can be there. Text in the keyword MATCH, MATCH, to 615-737-1025 now to be entered to win a pair of VIP ringside tickets. Visit pflmma.com/schedule for more details. D-Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Mason and Adam Vingan here with you, soon to be joined by Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. So we started the show playing a clip from Colin Cowherd saying how he feels that Cam Ward is enough of a difference maker that he will lead the Tennessee Titans from worst to first in the AFC South and therefore make the playoffs. One texter says, Wes in Clarksville says, or excuse me, this is Wes in Hermitage. Too many Wes's. On the yards to points per game thing, I bet the Lions were worse in that category years ago when Stafford was throwing bombs and then lost every game. I'll have to check that. Please do, and get back to me on that. The other thing, too, Derek, I saw a couple of analysts predict Cam Ward's statistical output. Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated did a story where he made 100 predictions about the NFL season 100 days from the start of the season. And this was his prediction for Cam Ward's season statistically. And I want you to tell me how realistic you think this is. A 63% completion rate, 3,124 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 225 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns.
Is that doable?
Mm-hmm.
Is that realistic? Yeah, it is realistic. It's not, there's nothing saying that he can't come in here and do all those things. This is who he was in college. And I think it will translate to the NFL. This is a season that you build upon. If you look at all these quarterbacks over the last 10 years, majority of them have had 3,000 passing years within their rookie season. And I'm just talking about the last 5 or 6, 7 guys. I'm not going back to Joe Flacco and Ben Roethlisberger, those guys. But I think because of the NFL is more, offensive centric, you're going to have some of these numbers. There's only a few numbers that I'm truly worried about. And, that's the percentage, his completion percentage and his interceptions. If the interceptions are down and the completions are up, then I think we're doing something good. I think the yardage will come. The touchdowns will come. But I don't want to see, at the end of the season, Cam Ward thrown 25 interceptions. I don't want to see him have a season like Jameis Winston. Even though Jameis Winston threw for 5,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, he also threw for 35 interceptions, about 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, something like that. That's not a productive year.
Let's bring in Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Hutton, we were talking about in the first hour from Colin Cowherd on his program. He was talking about the head coaches and quarterbacks who we think are going to be big difference makers for their respective franchises this season. And he singled out Cam Ward and said that he thinks that Cam Ward will make the Titans a playoff team this coming season. Now, I don't think any of us around here believe that is realistic, but indulge us for a moment. Okay. If Colin Cowherd were to be a prophet and Cam Ward does indeed lead the Titans to the playoffs, what do you think has to happen in order for that to come true?
Well, first off, his offensive line has to be a top 10 of the league. Let's put it that way. They have to run the football, and they need to protect the quarterback. When I say top 10, it's in all facets. Bill Callahan's going to be the MVP among coaches. It'll be the offensive line that will lead the way. Second, the Tennessee Titans are going to have to play with the lead. That's why they're going to have to run the football. And I just heard a tail end of that with the interceptions from D-Mace. I think the interceptions are going to be high because I think they're going to be playing from behind. And that's why I think we'll see Cam Ward let it rip because they're going to have to. So if Colin Cowherd's a prophet, the Tennessee Titans are going to be playing in low-scoring, high run volume games. They're going to be protecting the clock, protecting the lead, and they're going to have a rookie quarterback that's going to be making some of the right reads and the right decisions with a backup center to start the year, and then the veteran center to come along, who's going to be making the calls at the line. That's tough sledding right there. And there's a lot of things you can tell Colin Cowherd, all due respect to him, he didn't watch a lot of Tennessee Titans football. No one did last year.
I don't blame him.
And no, I don't either. But this is just here's a coach who worked with Joe Burrow. Let's put him with the next number 1 overall pick, and let's make let's give a hot take. That's fine. He can come. By all means, I would love for him to be right, because I'm tired of seeing a bunch of losing in the city from the professional sports teams. But let's dive a bit deeper with that, because there's a lot of factors that have to happen. And by the way, Denard Wilson is going to have to coach his ass off too on defense.
I agree with that about Denard Wilson. And before you came on, we were talking about rookie starting quarterbacks in the playoffs since 2004. I went back to 2000, and the first one that popped up was Ben Roethlisberger in 2004. And there have been a lot of rookie quarterbacks, more than I initially thought, who have started playoff games since that time. And one thing that we did some quick research as we were both discussing this, the common denominator was many of those rookie quarterbacks had the top scoring defenses in the NFL in terms of yards, in terms of points allowed per game. And I do think that we've talked about this.
Do you have a couple of names there, Adam?
Sure. These are the 15 rookie starting quarterbacks in playoff games since 2004. And I did not include times where the incumbent starter got injured and a rookie had to start a playoff game. I think
Big Ben's going to be in there.
Right. I think TJ Yates started a playoff game.
Okay.
I'm not counting that.
Oh, poor TJ. Let's count him. Let's make it 16.
Skylar Thompson, I think, started a playoff game for the Dolphins a few years ago when Tua was injured. I'm not including that. Since 2004 in chronological order: Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, Matt Ryan, Mark Sanchez, Andy Dalton, Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin, Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix.
Wow.
More than I thought. I feel like I should have been more surprised by this when I did the research, but it's happened more than you think.
And it also tells you guys, you're reading off that list, and I'm thinking, man, playoffs, they've expanded the playoffs too. Maybe that's not going to be indicative of much.
But Roethlisberger had a top defense. Flacco had a top defense. Russell Wilson had a top defense.
Sanchez
had a top defense.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm thinking about the individual. I'm thinking okay, where'd the quarterback go on to do? We were like, man, he'd be the savior here if he went to the playoffs this year. Well, the hype would be through the roof, and the city and the team needs it. The team needs it. But man, I'm just thinking long term, how I view those quarterbacks versus what I was expecting. That's why I thought the list would be so short. But you're right. It's about the defense. It's about the mentality, and think about the era. They're kind of they're kind of building a bridge between two eras of the NFL right there too.
Yeah, because the way I feel about it, Hut, is I think half of the battle is keeping teams from scoring. And then the offense and the offensive coordinator can kind of proceed from there how cautious he wants to be or conservative he wants to be with the quarterback, or how much of a chance he's going to take in certain areas. But when I look at this Titans team, and I want to get your opinion on this, because we look at, I think because we're here, we see all of the warts. We see it all.
Sure.
So sometimes you can't see what's good because there's so much bad. But if you look at the Titans and you just look at them at certain facets, this was a team that, if you just look at their season, all but the Detroit game, Buffalo game, and the Commanders, you're talking about three of the top teams in the National Football League. They were within striking distance of winning those games. They were leading some of those games at half. But the theme was at each and every time was what? The quarterback. He's going to do something to mess up the game. And lo and behold, whether it was Will Levis or Mason Rudolph, that is ultimately what happened. And the way I look at it is, because of the division, the Titans may not be as far off in the division as we may think. Because make no mistake about it, this isn't a division that Houston just runs away with. It's not. Houston has sort of fell back a little bit too with their quarterback. And I understand they had a lot of injuries last year. I get that part. They're figuring it out. Indianapolis hadn't figured it out. Jacksonville, they go as their quarterback go, and they've been inconsistent because he's been inconsistent and he's been injured. So when you look at it, there is an avenue, I feel, for the Titans, but a lot of it hinges on whether they can develop the quarterback in a way where they're not putting a lot of pressure on him. And half of that comes from Denard Wilson and his defense not giving up damn near 30 points a game. But I understand too, the offense, you can't put him in positions where the team, the opposing team scores after two passes to the end zone, where you're basically in the red zone when you get the ball.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Commanders game last year. I mean, it was 28-0 before they scored a point.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's 42-20 or whatever the final score was. I mean, that's I get your point, man. Like you have to have the top tier defense and the offensive line for the rookie quarterback to have success, because the rookie quarterback, we're looking back on those seasons, those 15 that Adam mentioned there, and hindsight is, they're a playoff quarterback. But man, go through some of those games, and I mean, you're going to see the rookie quarterback taking his lumps. Right? Like that's you have to ride the wave of the season. And I mean, the waves are the waves are tough in the AFC South right now. Just ask CJ Stroud in year 2. And now he's learning a new offense going into year 3. I view this, and you mentioned like the late in the fourth quarter, the Titans in fourth quarter games, guys, and I think I speak for the vast majority of people here. Late in games, the Titans are going to give up the drive that allows the score, and if they have time on the clock, they're not going to go down and score. Like if the other team has the football with 3 minutes left, they're going to go down and score to either tie or take the lead, and the Titans are going to get the ball back, and it's not going to matter because the defense didn't do its job. And that for a while, the beginning of last year, you're looking at all these stats for the Titans defense, and it's all well and good. And by the way, they are getting a lot of possessions in their own territory a couple of times last year, but they're still allowing points. And that's what you're saying, Mace. They've got to come away with more takeaways. They have to get more 3 and outs. The way the Titans offense, got off the field too fast, Titans defense has got to get the football back and make up for some of those possessions where the rookie quarterback's going to have to live and learn a bit, because that's part of this. Is you got to go through a season like this. Not every year is going to be like CJ Stroud and Jaden Daniels.
No.
And I think I mean, I'll speak for myself here. I'm not expecting that season. I'm going into this year thinking just get to 2026 already. Seriously. Like I'm ready to speed this thing up, and unfortunately, we have to go at the pace of a rookie quarterback here and a second-year head coach who's coaching for his life.
Yeah, that's what he's. I think that from that standpoint, he has to do a better job. But I am not gonna sit here and think that Brian Callahan can't get it done. Now, listen, you didn't get it quite right the first go around, and that was your task with Will Levis. Now you come in and you get a second opportunity, and not many coaches get a second opportunity to try to coach a first or second year quarterback. So now you get the second opportunity. What do you do with this second opportunity?
I want to jump in on that, because do you want me to do this now or after the break?
Let's do it after break.
Okay, because there's a weird he's going into year 2 and he's making some changes vibe right now with this whole little off-season thing that he's done. I want to play devil's advocate on this, because I think we're overlooking something.
All right, let's do that. 615-737-1025. We'll do that with Hutton. We'll also get into both the College World Series and the SEC's role in attempting to frame the college football playoff. We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063, The Game, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen, Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton Withrow joining us. Hutton, you had a thought on Brian Callahan you wanted to get to, so the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. You guys let me know if I'm crazy here, but I am hearing so much about this. I call it field day. Now, I know they're doing these little point system stuff, but in middle school, like towards the end of the school year, we would have field day. We would go out and have like three-legged races or wheelbarrow races or, balloon toss. Predating this era of the NFL, coaches would waste days that they had with players on going to water parks and having, the dizzy bat races. It frustrated me because the coaches would complain about the time that they had with players in the off season and then waste a day on dizzy bat races. And then they'd go off for the off season and come back for training camp. But this point system leadership building thing, it is what it is. I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It's just an off season thing that a coach is doing. That's getting lumped into changes have been made or he's open to new things. I don't get that because this offseason, the changes have been in the front office, but by and large, not with Callahan or the coaching staff. I mean, they got rid of Colt Anderson. Great. He was fired. They have a new tight ends coach now. They brought in Mike McCoy, who's an offensive assistant. But the developers of the talent acquired, I'm being very technical here. The guys who are coaching up the players, by and large, remain the same. The play caller remains the same. So what changes are we actually going to see? I can't lump in the offseason, you get 3 points for doing this as some big deal for what adjustments have been made by a coach going into year number 2 with a rookie quarterback. And I'll say this again and stress this season and the improvement, the development of the players, to me, the success rate of that on the win-loss column comes down to 2 men. It comes down to Bill Callahan and then Bones Fossil being the version of Bill Callahan that everyone was hyping last year to an offensive line that wasn't that good. He's taking over a special teams unit. They gave up big plays. That was horrendous. That was awful. And now we're looking for adequate. And if we get that, we probably see more wins than we would have last year that resulted in games, in 50-50 games that were losses by a bad football team. That to me helps the rookie QB sort things out as you go. But what's happening in May and what's happening in June, by and large, will not be referenced in September.
No, it's not, unless the team's not doing well and people reference it in a bad way, I think. And then again, if it's going well, people may still reference what they, did, because they will see it as, as a change that helped, in the winning process. So I guess it just depends on how the season goes, whether people look back on it.
Mace, isn't it more about he's acknowledging without acknowledging that this team doesn't really have a number of guys who are leadership options, meaning he's got to find out who steps forward and grabs the brass ring a little bit here.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with 2 things. One, he understands that this team isn't as close as they need to be. So he's trying to find ways, which I agree with. Try to find especially after you came off season where you won only 2 games. Man, you better try anything and everything to make sure this team is pointed in the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
So the stuff that he's doing as far as, the games and the point system, I like it because he understands that we need more cohesiveness as a team. We need to bond more as a team. So not only is it practicing against one another or working out with one another, we're going to have these competitions where that breeds good things. That can only breed good things. But then, you look at that part of what Bill Callahan is doing as far as trying to get these guys. But then also he understands that you said leadership qualities.
Yep.
I think they have guys that have leadership quality. What he's trying to find is the leader.
Right,
because
exactly.
yeah, so
Candidates.
yeah,
They
exactly.
have candidates. They don't have the guy.
Exactly, absolutely, and that is what he's looking for, and that coaching staff is looking for, that leader. Because even though we may have a bunch of guys, or let's say a handful of guys with leadership qualities, y'all haven't shown how y'all haven't presented how to lead to the rest of the other guys. You looked at Jeffrey Simmons last season; he was anointed a leader. What happened with him? A bunch of stuff that shouldn't have happened, and it diminished him as a leader. He could say what he want to say, but those things that we saw with our own eyes diminished him as a leader on this team. Maybe not with but as we look at it, like, man, you can't be a leader, but yet and still you're doing these things that leaders know not to do. So hopefully he's a lot better. That's what Brian Callahan and the coaching staff and the front office is trying to find out. Yeah, y'all talk about, y'all got the qualities of a leader, but we need to have a guy, and we do not have that guy. So I don't mind the things that he's doing right now. I really don't.
Well, so let's just we can. I'm not trying to take up the whole segment here, but like, if they hit on Levis last year, if they hit on Levis, Levis is the guy.
Yes,
he's the guy you're talking about. So this can be Cam Ward, but you just can't anoint him.
Exactly.
Right? So, but they truly believe he is that guy. They were sold on him 2 weeks before the draft. They didn't even take trade offers. Like, they know he's that guy. They truly believe that. I'm not saying everyone outside that building does. They are all in. They are convinced he's that guy. Now it's about finding the nucleus.
They
don't have that.
This is their version, whether people believe it or not, and I'm not trying to make the comparison in the player, but this is their version of Steve McNair. That's who Cam Ward is. He's their version of Steve McNair, of getting a rookie quarterback. Would they probably like him sit? Absolutely. They would probably like him sit and really gain that development that he needs. But they can't afford to let him sit. So to them, they want him to be the leader, just like Tennessee eventually, where Steve became, he and Eddie, but Steve became the leader. Steve became the voice. Steve became the heartbeat of this team along with Eddie. That's what they want from Cam Ward. They want that from him. But in the process, we need to find that guy until he reaches it, because we're not going to force it on him. We want him to be it, but we're not going to force it on him, because we tried that last year. And what happened?
Hey,
it didn't work out well.
Let's tie this into the first segment. All the quarterbacks that went to the playoffs with those defenses, right? All those defenses had a guy. Like, I just always think about Baltimore. Ray Lewis, and that defense had 2 or 3. Is Simmons that guy? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's what you're getting at. It's got to be right now. The team will tell you when it's time. The team will allow the quarterback to take over when it's time. That's what you're saying with Steve and but who's leading the team? Because it can't be year 2 coach, because it was year 1 coach, and that he's got to have the coach in the locker room, but the guy that they look at and follow the Callahan way. And that's what they don't have right now. You've got a tight end who's already saying that that the rookie quarterback's already won over the locker room. I mean, come on, that's not the way of the NFL. And you got to have the alpha. We know that Jeffrey Simmons is an alpha, but is he the commander of? Is he the commander of the Titans locker room right now? And the answer is no.
Hutton, I want to get your thoughts on the college football playoff, as Heather Dinich and Pete Thamel report at ESPN, and a significant pivot from the highly publicized push for automatic qualifiers in the next iteration of the CFP. The SEC on Tuesday took a heightened interest in a 16-team model that would include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids. But those two report there's a disconnect between the league's athletic directors and coaches, which appeared Tuesday in public comments. Florida's and Texas A&M's ADs were both adamant about wanting automatic qualifiers, which would go along with the league adopting a 9-game league schedule. But coaches such as Lane Kiffin said they prefer a model with the 16 best teams, and Kirby Smart said he wanted a model that would include the most SEC teams possible, pointing to the SEC's other sports and their ability to flood the postseason because of strength of schedule. Where is this ending up in your mind?
they are going to change how they define strength of schedule to get into the college football playoff. Okay, let me say they're going to do that either way. There's two versions of this. The first version is the 4-team automatic qualifiers. Teams like or programs like Florida and Texas A&M want that because they're going to play this schedule that is going to keep them, they believe, some years out of the college football playoff, not in, because they're going to have more losses than teams that they're competing against to get in from other conferences. They want the automatic qualifiers if they're going to go to 9 games in the SEC slate, because that's potentially it's an extra win, but also an extra loss for them. And I think a lot of everybody agrees that the SEC schedule is what it is. It's the gauntlet. They're also a part of this going to, they're going to be playing one of their non-conference games is going to be required to be, or it's been floated out there, required to be a Power 4 program, not one of these, directional programs that they're used to playing. So again, like they're in their mind, they're adding 2 extra games that are tough. I get that. The other Sankey and others are thinking, okay, why do we cap it on the number of teams that we have when no one's really complaining about basketball or baseball and we're taking over those sports too? And that it seems like if you cap it at 4, there's a punishment there. This is just the counter of, okay, if you're going to complain ACC and Big 12 about getting 2 automatic qualifiers, let's just not have any. And then in a 16-team playoff, we'll take Big 10 and SEC will take 11 or 12 of those spots, and then we'll see if you want the automatic qualifier or not. That's the underlying message here is we'll take 4, you take 2. You don't like that? Okay, then instead of 8 combined on the Power 2, we'll take 12. Because if we're going to just simply rank it 1 through 16, SEC and Big 10 are by and large going to be fulfilling those spots. And that's the harsh reality of the ACC and the Big 12 as to why they will take their 2 and like it. And because they're guaranteed 2, when in some years they may just get 1 and they'll be looking up at the 1, which is the conference. And it's more about business than it is for good of the game.
And I know that it would never happen. I am glad that the CFP is going to the straight seeding model this coming season so that the top 4 teams get the buys. So we don't, no disrespect to Arizona State and Boise State, but they should have been in the first round. They shouldn't have received a bye just based on
if the ratings were high, it would be exactly the way it was.
That is fair. And I know it would never happen, but Lane Kiffin floated the idea of, hey, no automatic qualifiers. The top 16 teams are the top 16 that get in. I know it would never happen, but I don't hate the idea.
I don't hate it. The problem with that is you have a lot of different networks, a lot of businessmen behind the scenes that are trying to make the regular season more impactful. Okay. So that diminishes the value of Big 12 and ACC football during the regular season. Because if you're it's all up, everything was about the 14 playoff, everything. And then there was the rest of the bowls. Now everything's about the college football playoff, and it has diminished the rest of bowl season. It has. We don't talk about the other bowls in the race for certain bowl games anymore. Those days are behind us, unless it's in your city and you want to go catch a football game, which is great, but the anticipation just isn't there. Now you want to have more conferences involved for spots in that ultimate prize because it makes the regular season more impactful on a week-to-week basis, and the networks are happy. They're paying more money. The rising tide lifts all ships, and it also makes the inventory for the SEC and the Big 10 more valuable because they're getting more teams in. In essence, that's why you want to have conference championships matter, because you do have other networks, including the network that SEC is involved with, ESPN, who also owns the ACC. They need that inventory more valuable than less. And if you just went straight 1 through 16, no conference champs, you just ordered it, Adam, I'm here to tell you, man, there wouldn't be much to watch in the ACC.
I hear you, but I think that Lane Kiffin is a bit of a mad genius.
Hey,
so whenever he says something, I tend to listen.
Lane always catches people's attention.
Here's the other thing, that play-in thing for the SEC and the Big 10. That's also based on something Lane Kiffin said.
Mhm.
And he wasn't wrong, even though last year he was wrong, where he said, "Hey, right now why does it benefit us to want to go play in Atlanta for the SEC title? Remember this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, because should we even try to get to that game? Well, he could have used it last year,
Mhm.
turns out, but they can't have coaches say that. I mean, that really that makes the playoff matter more than the conference title. They don't want that, and I'm here to tell you, you're going to have the 3 versus 6, and you're going to have, or excuse me, yeah, the 3 versus 6 and the 4 versus 5, because what that does, you do it based on your SEC win percentage, not your out of conference percentage, just your SEC win percentage, and it keeps the 6th seed alive for a spot in the playoff. If you get 4 guaranteed,
Mhm.
even if you have a bad year, according to the strength of schedule now and how they're viewing it, you can still get in to the playoff and have a shot because you're playing the tougher schedule. You're playing the 9th game in the SEC. You end up going to the play-in with a chance to get the 3rd and the 4th automatic qualifiers, and it makes the SEC slate during the regular season more important. You're focused on those games. Those games matter. You slip up, you can still win your way back in, and you have your seeds 1 and 2. There is no bye week, by the way, moving forward in this plan for the college football playoff. Seeds 1 and 2 in your conference would get the bye. They're not playing that at championship weekend. That's their bye week before the playoff begins, and then you have the 4 other teams behind them play for the right to get in. That is the ultimate prize for the SEC. It's more money. It's an extra game. Everybody's going to make more money. More teams have a chance to get into the playoff for the guaranteed spots, and it makes your regular season massive week to week within the Southeastern Conference. That's why they're going to do it, and it shuts up people like Lane Kiffin because you will want to play in those games. You'll have to.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow joining us on D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick as he does every Wednesday afternoon. Hutton, great stuff as always, my friend. We'll chat next week.
Thanks, guys. Can we just go back to the BCS?
Hey, once the horse is out the barn, that's it. Sounds
I know.
good, don't it?
Life was
I long for the
easier
days
when
of Derek Mason in college.
Yes,
Exactly.
life was easier when a computer figured out everything for us.
But then they said the computer was fixed.
Yes.
So it really didn't matter.
Yeah, don't ask ChatGPT. It already knows the champion next year.
Yes.
There you go.
Thanks, Hutton.
All right. Later, guys.
Yep.
615-737-1025. I have a trivia question for all of you as we head to our next segment. Can you name the 3 players who have strung together active? This is an active streak, by the way. Can you name the 3 players who have strung together 3 consecutive seasons of 1,000 rushing yards? There are 3 active streaks of at least 3 seasons of 1,000 rushing yards. Can you name the running backs? And I will reveal the answer on the other side because it has something to do with, well, the local professional football team. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025-1063. The Game. D-Mace Vingan and Donick 1025, 1063. The Game, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So my trivia question for all of you. There are 3 players in the NFL who have active streaks of at least 3 seasons with 1,000 rushing yards. I would ask Derek to name them, but I've already spoiled it for him. Those 3 running backs, Derrick Henry, no duh. Najee Harris, and Tony Pollard. They are the 3 running backs with active streaks of at least 3 consecutive years with 1,000 rushing yards. Derrick Henry, not a surprise.
Yes.
Najee Harris, yeah, pretty surprising. Tony Pollard, I bet you could throw him in there too in that surprising category. But as we're talking about the things that the Titans need to do to be able to be successful, we talked about the defense, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow, I'm sure. But a running game is something that Derek has emphasized. And Tony Pollard, he had a career high last season, just under 1,100 rushing yards. But he seemed to slow down as the season progressed. He was dealing with an ankle injury, so there's your reason. He averaged 16.3 attempts per game, which was a career high. But I would say that he wasn't very efficient. He had 4.2 yards per carry, which ranked 29th out of 41 qualified running backs. There's a fancy stat called success rate, which basically means how many yards you gain depending on the down. It's about keeping the offense on schedule. It uses the expected points added metric, EPA. He had a success rate last season of 35%. Which was 33rd out of 41 qualified running backs. So I would say that those numbers tell me that Tony Pollard, despite being a 1,000-yard back, wasn't incredibly efficient. Now, you could blame the offensive line, perhaps. But Brian Callahan has stressed, and we can play that clip in a minute, Brian Callahan has stressed trying to keep Tony Pollard fresh over the course of the season so that he can maintain that strong start that he had, if I remember the strong start correctly, that he can maintain his play over the course of the season. And that falls on the shoulders of Tajay Spears. Tajay Spears had 84 carries last season. He was injured for part of the season. He averaged 7 attempts per game. The Titans are going to need a lot more from Tajay Spears in order to keep Tony Pollard fresh so that Tony Pollard can help Cam Ward.
Yeah, if you look at Pollard, I think Pollard is a hell of a back. I think he's one of those guys that just does his job, and he's not looking for the fanfare or anything else. He's just a good player. He's tough, and if you look at his career, he's not. I think you got to hold him under that 250 carries per season.
He broke out as the 1B back, right? In Dallas with Ezekiel Elliott.
Absolutely.
Then he took over for Ezekiel Elliott, and he was good.
Yeah.
But I do think that you could see over the course of the season last season that Tony Pollard's production seemed to diminish as it progressed, mostly again because of an injury he was dealing with that I think forced him to miss 1 game. And then played through it near the end of the season. But Brian Callahan, he knows the importance of having multiple backs capable of carrying the load. Go back to Cincinnati. I'm thinking of 2022 in particular. What is that sound?
Oh, that's the commercial. That's the I'm like,
I was like, is there an airplane? I mean, we are close to the airport. I was like, hopefully there's not an airplane headed directly towards our studio.
Battery commercial.
But Callahan knows the benefits of having multiple backs who can carry the load. I remember back in 2022 with Cincinnati, Joe Mixon was the workhorse back for the Bengals, but they also had Samaje Perine, who played an important role for that team. So ideally, Pollard can be Mixon and Spears can be Perine in this example.
See, that is what has been the problem here, because they're not getting enough production from Tajay Spears and any back behind Pollard. They're not getting the production that they need. Pollard, again, they got to keep him under that 250. He needs to be more like a 225, somewhere around there. I think if he gets to that point, you're going to be able to maximize the true player that he is at the running back position. And then obviously you expect the offensive line to be better, or hope that they're better than what they were last year. But I think with him, he's not like Derrick Henry. The more times Derrick Henry got the ball, the better he became. I think there's a cap to Pollard. I think, the 16 per game, that was the highest of his career. And that seems pretty low, don't it? 16 carries per game. That seems pretty low. But I think the way the Titans want to operate and what kind of back he is, I think he's more so better at, maybe 15, or let's just find a way to keep it under that 250. Because if you have Spears carrying the ball over 100 times, then that helps Pollard, rest somewhat. But that's why they went and drafted the kid Mullins from Michigan. He was damn near 1,000-yard rusher with Michigan last season. I think he had like 900 or some yards.
So Pollard,
but he's a powerful back.
Mm-hmm. Pollard, I'm sorry to step on you there. Pollard averaged 16.3 attempts per game, which was tied with Alvin Kamara. Here are the running backs that averaged more attempts per game last season than qualified running backs that averaged more attempts per game last season than Tony Pollard. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs, Joe Mixon. Is it Chuba? It's Chuba Hubbard, right? It's not Chuba. Chuba Hubbard. That's it, because he was then Kamara and Pollard. So Pollard was top 10 in carries per game.
But let me rephrase that, because when I look at it, and that's why I'm like 16 attempts per game. That doesn't seem like a lot. That number baffles me.
Top 10 among qualified running backs.
That doesn't, you should be able to carry the ball 16 times a game, but it's not how many times he carries it. It's when he carries it. I think they need a fresher Pollard toward the end of the season than not. So that's why it's, get it underneath that 250. Let's not use him, or let's not use him as much at the beginning, knowing that, we're going to need him, because the quarterback's going to need him. He's one of the quarterback's best friends beside the offensive line. They're going to need him and his power running more so the second half of the season rather than the first half. So that's why you go out and draft the Mullins. That's why Tajay Spears needs to come back fully healthy and ready to roll. Because if we can save some of the tread on Pollard at the beginning, he's a better back at the end, because he may be getting the 16 carries, but it looks different than what it did at the beginning of the season.
In terms of just total attempts, not per game, total attempts, he was 8th in the NFL, behind Barkley, Henry, Kyron Williams, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, and Najee Harris.
Yeah, so the Titans got to find a way to lessen the workload, especially at the beginning of the season, because they're going to need Pollard at the end of the season, because he's a guy, he's a veteran guy. He's played on teams that were fighting at the end to try to make a playoff run when he was with Dallas. So, So to me, it's not so much 16 attempts per game, because again, that seems low to me. It's about where those carries come and when they come. If I can get a bulk of those carries toward the end of the season where he's really helping us, then okay. That's why Spears and Mullins, these guys need to come into camp ready to take a bulk of the carries away from Pollard. Not because I think they're better than Pollard, but because I think it will help Pollard, which in turn will help the quarterback, which in turn will help the Tennessee Titans.
615-737-1025. Practice is over at St. Thomas Sports Park, so all of the reporters who are there are tweeting their updates because now the embargo has been lifted. So we'll take a look at what those reporters saw at practice. I also want to talk about J.C. Latham. We know that J.C. Latham is moving from left tackle to right tackle, but he's also undergone a major transformation, and he detailed what was behind that on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. So we'll play for that. We'll play that for you next, as well as get our updates from Titans practice. 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, the game. D-Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie Donick out today. Tomorrow, we will be live at Hermitage Golf Course for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament. Looking forward to that. I'm not much of a golfer myself. I'm a good mini golfer.
Are you?
I grew up at the beach. There's a lot of mini golfing at the beach. If you need
That's
me,
how you honed your skills.
right? If you need me to putt a colored ball through a gorilla's mouth, down a chute, into a hole, I can do it for you, buddy. Anything else? Can't do it. Shout out Jungle Golf, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Shout out. No free shouts. I don't care. Shout out Jungle
Shout
Golf.
out, but no free shout out.
Jungle Golf, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Shout out.
Oh my goodness. That's where you honed your skills.
Right. So like if I took a step onto that immaculate green at Hermitage Golf Course tomorrow and someone told me, hey, sink a putt, wouldn't be able to do it.
No.
But if you rigged it up and had a little giraffe there or something, and you had to hit the ball through the giraffe's mouth and it went down its neck and out of its butt and into the hole, I would eagle
You would
that.
ace it.
I would eagle that sucker.
Hey, I think a lot of us feel that way, Adam. If they would only set up the course like a mini putt.
Yeah.
Like a putt, I
Yeah,
am
putt-putt.
solid.
Yes, we're good. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Oh man.
Um,
All right. So the updates are flying at St. Thomas
Oh,
Sports
boy.
Park because reporters who are there are not allowed to report on what's going on until after practice is over. So then you see this flurry of activity on social media from Teron Davenport and Paul Kaharski, among others.
mhm.
And during the break, I was reading some of these to Derek, and there was a tweet that pissed him off. But it wasn't the person who wrote the tweet. It was the context, the content of the tweet. And it's from Paul Kaharski. Quote, missing from Titans voluntary Phase 3 OTA. Tyler Lockett, L'Jarius Sneed, Kevin Zeitler, Tavondre Sweat, and Jeffrey Simmons. And I could tell that bothered Derek Mason.
Yeah, and as you were saying,
And there's no other context to
yeah,
this. It
there's just
literally
no other
says
context. Yeah.
missing from Titans voluntary Phase 3 OTA. Lockett, Sneed, Zeitler, Sweat, and Simmons. That's all it says.
Yes, and so I'm just going by what is said, and because I said, well, were they in the building? Because that was my first thought. Like, okay, you say they weren't participating, but were they in the building? Because
Well,
there's
I
two
guess
different-
we don't
yeah,
know that.
We don't know that. So I am going by what was told to me. That's how I am going to answer the question. Now, if we come to find out that there's more information, then I am able to adjust my answer. But as we speak now, based upon the information I have right now, which is what Paul put out and TD put out something to that effect, those individuals now, Lockett and Zeitler, and maybe because they're moving, families probably are in their respective cities. Zeitler, maybe his family's still in Michigan. Lockett's family may still be in Seattle. So, coordinating all that, I know how it is. But I'm going to tell you this one thing, that when I signed with the Baltimore Ravens, yes, my family was in transition, but I had to be there. That first day they started, I was there. Even though my family was still making a transition. I had two little ones. My daughter was just my son. No, because we left when he was 2, 3. So my daughter was just in kindergarten at the time, or just getting ready to start kindergarten. And Marcy, she was doing a lot of stuff, herself, because I was in the process of coming back and forth, because I felt I needed to be there. But when I was at home, I was helping. We got all that stuff situated, but I felt I needed to be there first day. So when I look at, Lockett and Zeitler, I understand, but man, oh man, I can give you a pass on that. But these other guys, man, you were a 2-win football team last year, a 3-win football team. Excuse me, I can't slight y'all a win. because I know they're hard to come by in this league. You were a 3 football win team. You were embarrassed during the season at times. You look like an offense that didn't know what to do. You look like a team that, at times would just seem like lost. Y'all didn't seem like y'all were cohesive. To me, when you've come off a season with so much stuff that it went wrong, and you were a 2-win team, which parlayed you to the number 1 pick, and I'm subject to change my answer based upon the information I get, but right now, ain't no damn way y'all shouldn't have been on that playing field practicing. Now, L'Jarius Sneed, I understand his knee, so his injured knee, quad, whatever it is, he's sitting. But if you're available to be out there physically, then you need to be out there.
And I think you are. Now, I don't want to put words in your
Okay.
mouth, but I do think that you are pointing the finger squarely at one Jeffrey Simmons.
Yes,
because we talked about this yesterday.
This right here, and Jeff can hear it, and he can be upset with me. That's cool. I'm not here to try. I'm gonna be respectful to an individual. And I'm going to say, when you do good, you do good. When you do bad, do bad. Hey, this is where I am. So you may be upset about this when it gets to you. Just like Taylor Lewan was upset, I'm sure, when it got back to him, what I said. But when I talk, it's from experience. And you want to be a leader of this team. You want to be the leader of this team. And it's not like you're a 10-year vet, 12-year vet, 15-year vet, because Ray Lewis, he didn't, the voluntary things, he didn't show up to all of them. But, I mean, Ray had put in them years, all pros, defensive player of the year, Super Bowl winner. He had put in that. So he got some leeway, But if you want to be the leader of this team, off a team that came off a season that they only won 3 games, and people are questioning your leadership, Jeffrey Simmons. And again, I'm subject to change my answer based upon more information I get, because I don't know if they were not in the building. But if you were not in the building, then shame on you. It really is shame on you. And I say shame on you for this reason, because, again, you were a 3-win team. This organization is dying, begging for leaders, begging and dying for leaders. And I'm sure if you were not in the building, you squared it away with the head coach and everybody else. But even that, as a head coach, if it ain't family, like emergency family stuff, you knew these dates. You already had these dates. Your world, unfortunately, this is the way it is. Your world revolves around those dates. It does. Football, basketball, baseball, hockey. Your world revolves around those dates on the calendar. You don't do anything until you check those dates. Marcy, she used to look at the dates, and that's how we did our vacations. When the team was there, we had to, especially, again, going to Baltimore, first year there, I had to make sure I was there, because I came in thinking I have to be one of the leaders on this team. So I was there. Jeffrey Simmons, you want to be the leader of this team, and I think you have leadership qualities. But this is a season where you need to take that giant step. No more taking baby steps. No more. No more taking just a regular step. No, we running now, Jeff. You need to take longer steps. Your stride need to be a lot longer than what it has been. No 2 steps forwards and 3 steps back with you, Jeff. So again, if you are in the building, then I apologize. And and I can change my answer because you were in the building. But if you were not in the building, then, man, I hope you had a hell of a reason for not being in.
I believe Denard Wilson will be speaking to reporters among the other coordinators. I think that's going to start happening soon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he'll be asked about it. So we'll get that answer. I believe before practice, when Brian Callahan spoke, Paul Kaharski asked about Jeffrey Simmons, then said, is Jeffrey Simmons going to practice or is he here? And Callahan's response was, you'll find out, or you'll see, or something like that. And he wasn't on the field. So
I like stuff like that. Maybe he is in the building, and Brian didn't know whether he was gonna go out there or not. But again, here's where I'm coming from. Jeff, if you were in the building, you should have been out on the field, unless you're hurt and you were rehabbing. But even with that, what time is it? What time did they go on the field?
they started practice at like 11:30.
Okay, so you got in between 8 or 7 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning to get whatever rehab you needed to get in. If you were rehabbing something, but if you were in the building, you should have been visible out there on the field.
Practice was from 11 to 12:45.
Yeah, you should have been visible if you were in the building. This is my opinion. It's not good or bad. It's just my opinion. If Jeffrey was in the building and he was rehabbing, again, our world is built around those segments of time that are cut out. Our world is built around it. As long as you play in the NFL, your world is built around that. So they're going to practice at 11. If you have to rehab, come in at 8 o'clock, come in at 7 o'clock, get your rehab in, then go out on the field. Be visible. Those young guys like seeing that, man. Even those veteran guys, they like seeing that too. They may need your energy out there, man.
Here's a tweet from Paul Kaharski that may take Derek off even more. Xavier Restrepo is in the building with Cam Ward, Gunnar Helm, Alec Iomander, and Shimure Dike at 5 a.m. daily.
Well, the rookies have to. They make the rookies come in there early.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they make them come in there extra early. So I'm not asking them to come in at 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, I mean, if you can do it, go do it. But
it's important to know. Your point is, it's important to know whether Jeffrey Simmons is in the house.
Exactly.
If Jeffrey Simmons is in the building, although you wish that he were out on the field,
exactly,
you'll not accept it, but you'll live with it. If he's in the building but not on the field.
Exactly.
But if he's not on the field and not in the building, then you have a problem.
That's where I have the problem. And again, I'm not saying this for no other reason other than this, because it's not my career. I've had my career. It's long and gone. It was long and it's gone. Okay. I had my career, but I know what it takes to sustain that career. I know the things that you have to do. And it doesn't mean, just because I don't play defensive line. No, I still know what you need to do to stay in this game a long time. That I do know. And all I'm saying is Jeffrey is, listen, man, this is that season where, because I just read something this morning, actually, when I was looking at articles, and I think it was either SI, it might have been SI, and they were talking about Jeffrey Simmons and the Titans, possibly, they should try to extend his contract, because he is like the old guard right now. Here was SI.
Here was the tweet from 2 hours ago from Teron Davenport. Quote, Brian Callahan said if there's one person he doesn't have to worry about being ready for game day, it's Jeffrey Simmons. As for whether or not Simmons is there, Callahan simply said, quote, you'll find out.
That's a crock. See, this is where that really upset me. That really did.
Callahan's response?
Yeah, Callahan's response. That did something to me that I didn't think it would do. I was angry at that answer. I really was. I don't think Vrabel would ever say something like that. I don't think Harbaugh ever said something like that. And it's not like I think he's Harbaugh or I think he's Vrabes. I think Brian's a good coach. I'm not one of these guys that I think he's a good coach. But man, when you last year don't reprimand Simmons for the things he did, you didn't reprimand him then, and now you come back. Even though, listen, I'm not questioning Jeffrey Simmons on a Sunday. I know that young man is gonna lace him up and he's gonna give you everything he got. I know that. I believe that. But your answer, no. No, you're giving him a pass. No one deserves a pass on this team. Nobody. Nobody deserves. Derrick Henry is gone. Kevin Byard is gone. Those were the guys that deserve passes. Those guys are gone. Nobody on this current team. And even though I think really is a damn good player, I think Jeffrey's a damn good player. I think Pollard's a damn good player. And there's more on that team that I believe are good players. But none of them deserve a pass for anything. Why? Because you won 3 damn games last year. You don't deserve to pass as a head coach, and you don't need to be giving nobody else passes.
Here is that clip from earlier on Brian Callahan addressing Jeffrey Simmons.
What's Jeff's offseason been like to this point?
It's been pretty consistent for Jeff, I think. Again, whether you see him every day here or not, there's one person on this team, probably more than anybody, I never worry about being ready to play on Sunday, and that's Jeff. So I'm pleased with where he's at. He's working. I know he's ready to roll. So that's pretty all I can say to that. You'll find out.
So he's working. He's ready to roll. So he's not injured. He is not injured.
He was trying to be cheeky there, Brian Callahan, but you don't like that.
I know, but there.
Because when you add the context of Jeffrey Simmons not being thrown out of practice at training camp last year for throwing a punch, and then arguing
with Buck,
and yeah,
there's you don't have, and again, Brian Callahan, I think he's a good coach. I do. I'm not trying to diminish anything. He has a hell of a job to do. I tell you that. But there's no time to be cute. I don't care who you're trying to be cute for or to, Paul, I guess. You don't have time to be cute when talking about certain things and certain players. That's all I'm saying. You were a 3-win football team last season. We lost 4 games in it. We won 4 games in one season. I remember that. It was because everybody else was injured. But even with that, guys were pissed off. Guys were mad. Guys were upset. Guys came back ready to work, ready to roll. You were a 3-win team last season. And the guy that you want to be a leader on your team, he wasn't out on the field, and he wasn't rehabbing. I thought he was rehabbing. He wasn't rehabbing. And if he was in the field, if he was in the building, strike my my response. But I will say this. If you're in the building, be on the field. Again, if you're in the building, be on the field, because what those young guys see is you in the building, but you're not on the field. They need to see you on the field. You don't have to be working and all. No, they need your visibility out there. You want to be a leader? These are the things that you got to sacrifice. If you don't want to be out there, you got to be out there.
615-737-1025. So Jeffrey Simmons not spotted on the field at OTAs today. You heard Brian Callahan's response. We'll find out, quote unquote, if Jeffrey Simmons was going to be out there. He wasn't. We don't know if he was in the building, but you heard what Derek said. What are your thoughts? 615-737-1025. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
What's Jeff's offseason been like to this point?
It's been pretty consistent for Jeff, I think. Again, whether you see him every day here or not, there's one person on this team, probably more than anybody, I never worry about being ready to play on Sunday, and that's Jeff. So I'm pleased with where he's at. He's working. I know he's ready to roll. So that's pretty all I can say to that. You'll find out.
Well, we did, at least when it came to being on the field. Jeffrey Simmons not on the field for voluntary. I know I'm going to emphasize that word because I know we're going to get text or calls to that effect. It's voluntary. Yes, I know it's voluntary. But Jeffrey Simmons not on the field. We don't know if he was in the facility. Derek has said that if he's in the facility, he should be out on the field. So we don't know if Jeffrey Simmons is in the house or not. Denard Wilson, defensive coordinator, and the other coordinators are going to be speaking to reporters shortly. If it hasn't already started, I'm sure Denard Wilson will be asked about Jeffrey Simmons, and we'll update you if we have any updates. But we have a lot of texts on our text line agreeing with Derek. One texter says, completely agree with D-Mace. Even if Simmons' individual performance last year was great, which it was not, he should be out there helping his teammates, especially the young guys. TD, not Teron Davenport, but TD from Nashville says no playoffs plus no Pro Bowls equals no free passes. By the way, that first text was Steve from Hermitage. Thanks, Steve. One texter says 100% D-Mace. This team is so pathetic. Dustin from Hopkinsville. That's why I say Callahan is not a good coach. If Vrabel was here, Simmons would be there. Vrabel wouldn't give that kind of answer because he wouldn't have to. Leader of men, Callahan, leader of failure.
Listen, again, I think Brian Callahan is a good coach. But when I look at other teams and I see their first day, and granted, the schedule may be called something else with other teams, but I look and it's just like jealous. Like, this is what I want our team to be. When the first day of camp or the first day of whatever you want to call it, and this may not be the first, I don't know, but you see Derrick Henry, you see D Hop, you see Lamar Jackson, like, they're ready. Everybody's all in. Everybody, at least the supposed leaders. You think Derrick Henry really needs to be there on that day, that first day today? I think it is their first day or whatever they want to call it. You think Derrick Henry really has to be there? You think Lamar Jackson really has to be there? That's a chance for some of these other guys to get some reps. You think D-Hop really needs to be there? Look at the resume. They could have said, man, I ain't going. I catch up. Just give me the playbook. I get it. But those guys are there.
Yep. Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, all on the field for Ravens OTAs.
And that's what I'm looking at. Like, I want this. Like, I think people don't believe I want to see this team do well.
One texter says, was Derek Mason on the field at voluntary practice?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
Go check the receipts. And if I wasn't there, we had already discussed it. Okay? And it was a plan set in place. But for the most part, no. Especially when I went to Baltimore that first year, I was there. I didn't miss anything because I felt it was important to build a rapport with Kyle Bowler, a young quarterback that needed that connection with a veteran receiver. Why do you think D-Hop is there? Derrick Henry's there, the leadership. Lamar Jackson's there, the leadership. That's what I mean. And again, people may think I'm going at Jeffrey, but I'm not. And I want all of this. If you want to recut it, I want to make sure you add that. Whatever show wants to, I want to make sure y'all add that in there too. That I think Jeffrey is a hell of a player. But you got to know the temperature of the room and the climate that you're in right now. And Jeffrey, I know you want to be the leader of this team. You said it yourself. These are the moments where now you really got to take steps to doing that. Because to me, this is critical. Like, this team is at a point where they need. Why do you think why do you think that Callahan is doing all these things? I think they're great, but why do you think he's doing he's trying to find that guy Jeff, if you want to be that guy, then these are some of the things. These are the things you're gonna have to do. You may not think you need to do them, and you may not, but they are looking for a leader. And if you don't want to be that guy, then step back. That's cool. That is cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Just keep playing your ass off, like I know you will. But somebody needs to step up in that role. And what that role means is what you see from Derrick Henry. And people, I'm not want to litigate Derrick Henry not being on this team again. Please, let's not go down that road. He's gone. He's been gone. Okay, let's not. But that's what you need. And now, I'm not saying that no one on that team possesses that. But what I'm saying is that these are the moments where it needs to show up. The guys need to start doing things that are maybe a little bit uncomfortable for them. Yeah, maybe it'll be nice to, go take a trip with my family. Maybe it'd be nice to, do this with my mom or do this with my brother or, my best friend. But you got to understand one thing and one thing only, that your first priority outside of like that, for me, it was my kids and my wife. That was outside of them. And they knew like football was the priority. Like it had to be. If you want to survive for a long time, if you want to really make a dent in this league. And Jeff, this is an opportunity where you can take that step because the Titans need it. Why do you think Brian is trying to do all these things? They're looking for that guy. You have the qualities, but now you got to show up each and every time. Again, I don't think you're a bad guy. You're a hell of a player. You could take what I want and you could take what I'm saying and take offense to it. So be it. But I'm speaking from someone that wants you to be the best player that you can be a leader, because this team is devoid of leaders right now. Like a leader. That's why they're looking for it. I'm not saying that it can't happen on this team. I'm not saying that they don't have the guys that I think it, but they're looking for it. Don't matter what I think. It's what they're thinking. And right now, Brian Callahan is thinking, man, I'm trying to do everything to try to find me a leader. Cam, he's going to be that, but it's going to take him some time. But you older guys been here 6, 7, 8 years, they've been in the league. No, man. It's time for y'all to start taking bigger steps.
We talked about this the other day, that oftentimes the top players on a team are considered the leaders. Mm-hmm. But not every top player is cut out to be a leader.
No.
Jeffrey Simmons, when he entered the NFL, make sure I have my timeline here correct. He had Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. He had Ryan Tannehill. Mm-hmm. He had Kevin Byard. Mm-hmm. So he didn't have to be that guy because that responsibility was taken care of by those players, among others. This is from the outside looking in because I am not in the Titans locker room every day. Now, this is a situation where I would have much more trust in what Teron Davenport has to say or Paul Kaharski has to say because they interact with these players on a daily basis. From afar, it does not seem that Jeffrey Simmons is cut out to be a leader. And if that's the case, that's fine.
Leadership isn't for being a leader isn't for everybody.
If that's the case, that's fine. But it does feel that the Titans have been trying to convince us now for a couple of years. Jeffrey Simmons, he's a great leader. Jeffrey Simmons, great leader. I don't know if that's true. And the problem that the Titans have, Derek, as you said yesterday, is that there are players who have leadership qualities, but they haven't been molded into leaders yet. So you may have to have Jeffrey Simmons as your leader by default because he's the veteran. He's the highly paid defensive tackle, one of the highest paid players at his position in the NFL. So sort of by default, Jeffrey Simmons, he's been around for a while. He gets paid a lot of money. He could be the leader while we figure it out. But that may not be the best course of action. But they may not have any other choice right now until they are able to find the leader. One texter says, Big Jeff has tried and failed this team as a leader. Maybe Jeff doesn't want to be a leader. Maybe it's all about himself and the next contract, wherever that may be. So that's my point, is that Jeffrey Simmons, again, from afar, and this is a better question for Teron or Paul or someone who's around the Titans on a daily basis. From afar, it does not appear that Jeffrey Simmons is cut out to be a leader. And again, I'm fine with that, as long as the Titans are also not selling us on Jeffrey Simmons being a leader.
Yes, they can't. If he hasn't convinced the team or anyone else that he's a leader, you can't try to force that upon a person. Again, I think everybody has leadership qualities, but then there are only a few that can actually be leaders. And again, Jeffrey has leadership qualities, but is he the clear-cut leader of this young, developing, hopefully, roster?
A ton of turnover on
Yes.
this team. A ton of roster turnover.
This is a young team. This is a team that hasn't been together a long time. They haven't. And you, when you're looking for someone, you need that person to, to sacrifice some things in order to be that guy that he wants to be, but definitely you want him to be. And listen, I'm not walking around tied to the hip with Jeffrey, so I'm not saying he's not sacrificing, because I played the game long enough, so I know we all sacrifice something. But I think if you're going to be the leader of the team, see, there's different leaders. You got leaders of groups, and then you have leaders of teams, like the team. If you can be the leader of a group, but if you want to be the leader of the team, then your sacrifice has to be something that no one ever questions, ever, because they know outside of your family, like if you're married and got kids, or your kids, that's what I'm talking about, family. Love my mama, loved my dad, but listen, my job was first. But when it came to my children and my wife, no, they came, but they understood. Again, they understood that job. Yeah, I got to make sure Derek is right when he step on that field. Jeffrey, you got to sacrifice, and I know you know this. You got to sacrifice more than everybody else. And eventually Cam's going to be the one that has to sacrifice more than anybody else. But at this present time, and I'm going to say this very clear, at this present time, Jeffrey Simmons, and I'm directing it straight at you. So again, don't mince my words or mix my words up here. You, Jeffrey Simmons, have to start sacrificing more. Whatever you think you're sacrificing, because now you want to be the leader of the team. We're talking about 50 some other players.
Not just the defense.
Yeah, and an organization. The face. Cam's going to be it. He's going to get there. But until then, you want to be that guy. You're going to have to sacrifice, man, more than what you think you do. And I'm sure you're sacrificing already. So I'm not going to question you with that. Again, I'm not questioning that. But when it comes to guys that are leaders of 52 men in an organization, then yes, you must, and I repeat, you must sacrifice just a little bit more than everybody else. Because why? Everybody else is looking at you. These young fellas that's coming through these doors, you know how hard it is, Jeff. You know exactly how hard it is. Even though you were a first rounder, you know how hard it is. So they need somebody to lead them through that until Cam Ward is ready to lead. Because you said it, and everybody else, from one GM to another head coach, Jeffrey's the leader. Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, Jeffrey's the leader. Well, Jeff, man, you're gonna have to sacrifice just a tad bit more, man. You're just gonna have to. And I'm not getting down on it. I'm just saying you're gonna have to sacrifice a little bit more. So you think I'm gonna say like my boy Chris Sanders say, you either can get bitter with me because I said it, or you can get better from it.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on Jeffrey Simmons not being on the field for voluntary OTAs. Again, I know it's voluntary, but Derek just laid it out for you why it shouldn't be voluntary for Jeffrey Simmons. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up the show next. Mike Vrabel having to deal with a interesting situation in New England. We'll discuss that next as well. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D-Mace Vingan and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Stillman and Company coming up next. I believe Jared is out at Titans practice, so he won't be joining us for the transition, but you will hear him at 2:00, of course, with Stillman and Company. We will be live tomorrow at Hermitage Golf Course for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament. Looking forward to that. Again, if anybody wants to set up a mini golf course, I will nail it. But I don't think that's going to happen because it's a serious golf tournament. But we will all be out there tomorrow, and then we are looking forward to supporting a great cause. So, Mike Vrabel dealing with an interesting situation in New England. Here is a headline from the Daily Mail, a sentence that has never been nor will ever be uttered about me in my life. Stephon Diggs swarmed by bikini-clad women during boat party, with girlfriend Cardi B just meters away. So I learned today that Cardi B and Stephon Diggs are together. But he was indeed swarmed by bikini-clad women. Again, something that will never happen to me, and that's okay. I've moved past that. I can live with it. But I suppose there was a video that went viral of Stephon Diggs on this boat holding what appeared to be a pink powder. And Mike Vrabel had to answer for that today. He said, quote, "It's something that we're aware of. Obviously, we want to make great decisions on and off the field. Any conversations that I've had with Stephon will remain between him and I and the club." Vrabel went on to say that Diggs was not present for Wednesday's voluntary OTA session. He said any player that isn't with the team has been in communication with the club, but did not give any idea about when Diggs, who has been at other work, might be back with the team. So, an interesting situation right off the hop for Mike Vrabel in New England, Derek Mason.
I don't think it's a powdery substance. I think it's a gummy of some sort. Now, what type of gummy is it? I don't know. Is it just your regular run-of-the-mill gummy that you just get from your convenience store? It could be.
Doubt it.
Or is it another gummy? Who knows? It's not a powdery substance. It's not, because I zoomed in on it. It's two different colors. It's like a pinkish, and then it's like a turquoise dark color. And you can tell that they're gummy, like strips or whatnot, as opposed to a powdery substance. So let's sort of take that. I did my forensics on it, and it seems to be not a powdery substance. So let's take that off the table. Man, oh man. I mean, man, you just got to be conscious. I mean, everybody loves to go out and enjoy themselves. And in Stephon's case, his girlfriend is meters away, and I guess that's their friends, all their friends.
Well, you asked me during the break. You said, don't you think he would have noticed if he's being recorded? And I said, if I was on a luxury yacht surrounded by bikini-clad women, I don't think I would notice anything else that was going on.
Here is because I am so paranoid, and this just may be my paranoia, watching so many things that have happened, like people filming people and them. I am so paranoid that I pay it like if I've had, because I'm not a big drinker anyway, and really my max, ask anybody, is 2 drinks. But even with that, it's like I'm still trying to be aware of what's around me, because people take it upon themselves while you're having a good time. They film and they take pictures. And sometimes they're doing it just to have fun. Sometimes they're doing it for nefarious reasons. That's why I try to always be conscious of, I don't get that so out of it where I don't know what's going on. I'm not having that much fun that I don't know what's going on around me. And I'm not saying that I looked at the video. He should have known what was going around, but maybe he was so happy about all of the, the women around and on the boat. I guess that does something to you. I'm 51 years old. I don't experience that. Okay. I'm not on a boat with like 5 women with gummies, whether they're gummies from the local gas station or not. I don't walk around with my hand. So I don't know. I just think whatever he was doing, hopefully it wasn't what it seemed to be. But I understand he can have a good time and everything else, but he has to be aware that people, especially now that he's dating Cardi B,
yes,
the attention is going to be even more on him this off season than anything. So just because you saw Travis Kelce do it with Taylor Swift, and how he had to manage all that, and it looked good. I'm sure it looked great from the outside, but I'm sure they had their own problems as far as trying to keep things, just to them and their
And
relationship.
it's a different level. It's a different level of fame.
Yeah, it
because
is.
Stephon Diggs and I think to a greater extent Travis Kelce are famous.
Yes.
They're good football players.
Mhm.
But then you enter a different stratosphere of
Mhm.
fame, especially when you're Travis Kelce,
Yes.
dating arguably
Taylor
the
Swift,
biggest
yes.
celebrity in the world. Now,
And
Cardi,
I'm not, believe me, Swifties, don't
Yes.
get on me. I'm not saying that your savior is not the best thing when it comes to entertainment in the world. She probably is. I'm not saying that. But when you date people of celebrity status, especially those two, even though Cardi B isn't on the level of Taylor Swift, Cardi B is known around the
yes,
US.
she is.
Okay?
She is exponentially more famous than Stephon Diggs.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So it's a different level of fame when you're dating someone like that. So he would still be getting a lot of attention.
Mhm.
It's a little bit different when you're dating
Yeah.
an incredibly popular entertainer.
And I'm sure Travis Kelce found that out very quickly. Like, man, I gotta be careful of how I move now because now more cameras are on me because of who I'm dating. Stephon Diggs needs to find that out very quickly. And I'm sure after this video, he's gonna realize that, okay, now I really see it. Like, I see it. Everything we do is filmed and put out there.
One texter, Caleb, wants to know why Tavondre Sweat wasn't there. We talked a lot
Yeah,
about
I
Jeffrey
want to know.
Simmons,
I want to know,
but Sweat wasn't there either.
But again,
But the implication, perhaps, maybe I'm putting words in Caleb's mouth, and Caleb, if I am, I'm sorry. It's that, well,
Jeff wasn't there.
Who's Tavondre Sweat's? Who's his go-to guy?
And that's what I was sort of kind of thinking.
Jeffrey Simmons.
So I'm not gonna listen. I don't want, and I said this, so I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. No one deserves a pass. No one, because his team was so bad. No one deserves the this and that or the excuse. Nobody, because you were a 3-win football team. So Tavondre Sweat, you need to be in camp. You need to be there, big fella. And what would help you is if Jeffrey was there. Again, I understand, Jeffrey, you a hell of a player. I will never, diminish you as a football player on the field because I know you play your ass off. I do. But leadership, you want to be that guy. You said it in each, Rand Carthon said it, Brian Callahan. You need to take a bigger step, man. You need to start because that big fella behind you, that's a tad bit bigger than you. He's watching you, man. That young man is watching you. And he may take some of his cues, not all of his cues, but he may take some of his cues from you. And y'all may have discussed that you weren't going to be there and all this. I get it. But when you're a 3-win football team, there's no reason why you shouldn't be in the building. No reason unless, again, your family, I'm talking about immediate family, wife, kids. But then again, your life is built around football, not the other way around.
By the way, speaking of the Patriots and speaking of big fellas, have you seen this Desmond Watson? He weighed in at 464 pounds at Florida's Pro Day. The heaviest player in NFL history. 464 pounds.
That's not the big defensive tackle because he got drafted. He dropped down to 400, didn't he? The big fella from Florida. Didn't he drop his weight down to, I think, 400 because he was over 400. Bigger fella at Florida. But then I think he's lost, if I'm not mistaken, he's lost over 20 pounds, something like that.
I'm all confused. I'm just thinking about the bikini-clad women on the yacht. So,
hey, if you're a Stephon, man, then maybe,
So, forgive
all the
me.
Stephons. You talk about Urkel Stephon. He got all the ladies
from Saturday Night Live.
Stephon, and now Stephon Diggs.
Yes. So I think the bikini-clad women has my brain all in the mix, and I think that's why it's a good time to end it here for today. We will be live at Hermitage Golf Course tomorrow for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament. Looking forward to it. We'll be out there. So will Chase and Big Joe. So will Jared Stillman for a great cause. Again, I'm going to petition the people over there. Just set up a mini putt for me.
Put a few gorillas, a
holes.
few
It
giraffes.
needs to be jungle animals because jungle golf was my go-to when I was in high school.
What
So
about a lighthouse?
no, I can't do a lighthouse because the thing spins and it blocks
That's
the
true.
ball.
That's fair. That's fair.
So you don't want no obstacles or anything.
Have
You want
ever,
nothing moving.
Have you ever one putted a ball through a gorilla's mouth? I don't think you have, Derek Mason. Stillman and Company coming up
True
next.
athlete.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, wonderful Thursday. What is it? Wednesday. I'm
It's
sorry.
Wednesday.
Peace.